He's like, oh my god, he's really in there. What is he looking for?
He's looking for wisps. Lycos, it's good to totally not see you as always, because I never have a visual on your face.
It's been like so long since we chatted.
Oh my gosh, dude.
Man.
It's almost like it's been like a week, or
Not
what
even.
were we doing last week, Lycos?
Last week, excuse me, we were raising money for charity.
Dude, we raised over $2,000 for two wonderful mental health organizations.
Yes, we did.
Great segue from mental health is the concept of wisps in the Sonic the Hedgehog universe, right? They're beings made of total energy known as hyper-go-on, and if you completely drain their hyper-go-on, they become nega-wisps, which is basically the same thing that happens to humans if you drain them of their energy source, right?
Let's go over wisps first. They're aliens.
Alien cephalopods.
They're mostly eyes. Like, they mainly have, like, eyes and tentacles or tendrils as their main feature, except for, like, if they are, drained of their life source energy, this hyper-go-on, in which they lose their eyes and grow mouths. I think there might be, like, one exception to that rule, but I don't know where that one is in the spectrum of wisps.
Very fair. But Lycos, I feel like we're getting ahead of ourselves even further. They are alien cephalopods. Can you define a cephalopod?
A cephalopod is basically a squid is.
Actually, a cephalopod is any member of the molluscan class Cephalopoda, such as a squid, octopus, cuttlefish, or nautilus. These exclusively marine animals are characterized by bilateral body symmetry, a prominent head, and a set of arms or tentacles modified from the primitive molluscan foot. I would like to make a demonstration, if I might, Lycos. May I, Lycos?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
a cephalopod. It's got a prominent head, like this guy, which I'm going to draw to look like a lightning bolt, totally.
Okay.
That head has bilateral body symmetry. It's basically the same on both sides. So let me fix that. There we go. A set of arms or tentacles modified from the primitive molluscan foot. I'm going to guess that this is the foot because I'm going to give it some toes. And then here's the tentacles. Here's the tentacles. Here's the tentacles. There's some eyes. There's 3 eyes. And there's the sharp teeth, which some of them have. And that's a wisp.
So where are the eyes?
I think this one's the only eye it has. I think these ones are auxiliary.
I want you to know that the eyes are completely cut off. You drew it too high, so little.
Here's some more eyes. They're definitely not nipples. They're not mammals. They're cephalopods.
You're right. They are not.
Correct. These are not. Actually, these ones are auxiliary. They're definitely not nipples, but we don't really know what they are. But this one in the middle is definitely an eye.
Awesome. So that is a cephalopod. Awesome.
So that's a cephalopod. So think of these as aliens. I'm gonna give them little antennas, and that's a wisp.
Yeah, that's.
Oh, and they have energy. There's all that energy.
The hyper-go-on.
Hyper-go-on D's. Chaos Emeralds.
Actually, hyper-go-on is not compatible with Chaos Emerald energy.
Are we jumping right into that? Because I got a bone to pick with that. We're getting ahead of ourselves.
We
Lycos.
are. There's
wisps are alien cephalopods that come in a variety of distinct colors, representing their own representation of color powers that utilize hyper-go-on as a power source. Consequently, wisps are evidently made of 100% hyper-go-on, and they have the ability to phase into people's bodies or just, like, I don't know, warp planets and shit like that.
Wisps are weird.
Wisps are wonderfully wacky creatures, and there are many wisps for you to choose from. Go ahead, pick a color.
Do we want the full list of colors, or are we just talking the ones where they were first introduced in Sonic colors? Because
let's go back and forth on colors. We're gonna name all the colors.
Okay, cool.
You first.
Black,
blue,
crimson,
cyan,
ivory,
green,
magenta,
orange,
pink,
purple,
gray,
violet,
red,
yellow,
white,
indigo,
jade.
Mother is not a
color.
Mother is not a color. That's true. She kind of pink though.
She is pink. I will give you that. But yeah, that is all of the colors. There's a lot.
There's so many colors. You'd think that they should just make a game called Sonic Colors, and because there's even more colors, slap Ultimate on it.
That sounds almost crazy enough for it to work.
I'm also thinking now too. It would have been perfect as we were announcing the wisps to say, wait, no. I was thinking because every single time you use a wisp power in the game, a narrator says what the power is. Laser.
I will. In my mind, it didn't click that that was like a narrator. I always thought it was like Sonic just going like really deep in his register and just like announcing that to the planets.
I mean, that depends. Does Roger Craig Smith voice Sonic the Hedgehog at all? Because that's who voices the narrator, at least in all of the English versions.
Oh, that is awesome.
Wait! Oh my god, I just clicked on him. Did you know that the narrator for Hover, Laser, Cube is the same voice as Omega and Abraham Tower? It's the same guy.
Oh my god,
it's the same guy. He's your boy.
Also,
he's your boy.
Actually, which Omega? Because remember we saw last episode that he had like 10 plus voice actors.
The current voices of Omega.
Oh wow, that's amazing.
That's incredible. Roger Craig Smith.
Also,
this guy. This guy. I love this guy.
So I want you to know, I'm seeing Abraham Tower from Shadow the Hedgehog and be like, this time, Shadow, you're laser!
Wait, and then it's Abraham, but he's got the cyan laser power.
Exactly.
Or something.
Like, he just lasers away.
He's like, you. Oh my god. Oh jeez. But so I guess so we've established up to this point that like wisps are made of this energy called hyper go on, which I don't know, we really don't get an explanation for hyper go on aside from it's another power source that's seemingly also really powerful, maybe comparable to the Chaos Emerald powers, but definitely incompatible.
So apparently there was a unused voice line by Dr. Eggman suggesting that Hyper Go-On was actually more powerful than Chaos Emerald Energy. But since the line is unused, we can't guarantee that that's canon.
It's like not really canon, I guess, if it's not in the game.
I don't know. I just thought that was a little fun fact. But yeah, so this Hyper Go-On energy is also really powerful energy. Let's say it's about like the same strength of Chaos Emerald energy or like on that level. And for some reason, the Wisps just have it. Well, it's their makeup, I guess.
And I got a thing with that. So I think we established it in a previous episode when we were talking about the Chaos Emeralds that the Chaos Emeralds are like life force, right?
Mm-hmm.
The life force of living, thinking things that have thought.
Mm-hmm.
Does that imply that wisps are A, not living, or B, don't have upper level thought? I mean, they seem to clearly do because wisps have like they don't trust people with their powers unless they trust them. Like they have to have a connection with them, which all of the wisps have this connection with Sonic because they're like his hero, they're their savior and stuff. But like, is that like a judgmental statement towards the wisps? Like stop being so judgmental, Chaos Emeralds.
Oh,
come on.
You're not good enough for our power.
Oh, you're not considered alive in the way that everybody else is alive. You're your own form of alive. You've got negative alive energy, and we don't do that. Hashtag negative chaos energy or chaos, perfect chaos. Hashtag negative energy for all. The yin and the yang.
So basically, the plot of Sonic Colors is Eggman is harvesting the Wisps, extracting their Hyper Go-On to power his mind control cannon. Except, like, when he sucks them dry of their Hyper Go-On, they transform into a Nego Wisp, which would be like your violet or your purple.
Yeah.
And I guess for me, my brain is just like, well, if they are entirely composed of Hyper Go-On, wouldn't if you sucked them dry of that energy, wouldn't they just die? Like, is there like a part, like, can you only drain like 99% of that energy? Is there some amount of that energy that you can't extract? So that's how they transform?
Wonder, because like if you think about it, like if you were to completely take all the Hyper Go-On from a Wisp, I imagine they would just like fizzle out.
Yeah.
They can clearly like use their Hyper Go-On to phase into things, like when they phase into Sonic or other characters to give powers, or even on the weaponry that we find later on in Sonic Forces, the Wispins. But like I'm willing to feel that there is maybe a phase shift that happens in a way that when their hyper go on levels get critical, they like transform, almost go into like self-preservation mode where they kind of lose that level of control. They lose their usual bright hued colors and they take on a form of like negative, like quote unquote negative energy, even though negative energy doesn't exist, unless we get to a point where maybe Sega decides to add an articulation that there is hyper go on, but there is also negative hyper go on. But I don't think that's ever been established. But we could say that if there's matter and antimatter, there's hyper go on and anti-hyper go on, which is totally my own concept here, by the way. But just like we haven't found a way to harness or really measure antimatter in a way, we just kind of like calculate it. Maybe there's a manifestation that wisps can take on if there's no more hyper go on and all that's left is the anti-hyper go on, the nega go on, if you will.
I think like I think negative hyper go on is a thing.
Oh?
Yeah, dude, negative hyper go on exists.
Ooh.
The main page I remember reading about it was talking about the Nega Wisp or Nega Mother Wisp.
Fair.
The Nega Mother Wisp is able to generate and store her own unique variant of a powerful energy known as hyper go on inside her own body, which is her life source, and is presumed to be able to store much larger quantities of hyper go on than any other known wisp. However, due to her mutation, the Nega Mother Wisp's hyper go on has been corrupted, resulting in a darker and negative version of the regular hyper go on.
A darker and negative version of the regular hyper go on.
Yes.
Negative hyper go on.
Yep.
Can theory confirmed. Clearly.
Oh,
Clearly. Well, that's wild, though.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, too, because you were bringing up the Nega Mother Wisp.
Yes.
And I want to say that she's only available in the DS version, I think?
Yes, so that was... actually, did you ever play Sonic Colors?
I watched my brother play Sonic Colors for the Wii.
Mm-hmm.
But not... And I think he played it a little bit for the DS, but I really didn't watch him play that. I just know that there were differences between the DS version and the Wii version because there were some wisps you could get on one, but not on the other.
Yes, so...
And I think one of them was, I think in the Wii version... It's either the Wii version or the DS version, but my favorite wisp when I knew about them was Frenzy.
Okay, because I played Sonic Colors for the DS, and I watched a friend play Sonic Colors for the Wii. There was one wisp different between the two games, and that was Frenzy, and I believe the other one was Void?
That makes sense. I remember one of them being like a giant... Yeah.
Void was only in the DS. Versus Frenzy, which was only in the Wii.
Okay. I gotta say, we're at this point where we haven't specifically listed out all the different powers and stuff.
Yeah.
But like, if you had to pick a favorite power, favorite color power.
Oh, that's tough. I might have to go Void, actually, because...
You know, with the Void?
Yeah. What about you?
I'm gonna have to pick Cube, only because I have this voice line that lists in my head of Roger Craig Smith saying, Cube! And then Sonic just like cubifying and then smacking the ground. And something about that in my head just has a comical energy to it.
Also, speaking of comical energy, I think this was a bit from Sonic Paradox Team where Sonic runs up to Knuckles and slaps the rocket wisp on his back. And just he just slaps his back and just goes, Rocket! And Knuckles just looks at him and is like, I hate you so much, and he shoots him into the sky.
I love that. Wait, I want to find... I'm going to take a little bit here. I want to find the voice lines for all of the wisps. And I wonder if I can find them.
Oh, I bet you can. I bet they exist somewhere.
I bet I must be able to find them. All wisp announcement voices. I've got a 22-second video.
Oh boy.
I got a 22-second video. I'm gonna share it with you. Credits goes to Penguin TM.
Penguin TM thing.
Penguin TM.
I will admit there are some wisps here that I don't recognize because I think they were added in later games. Because like Colors was their primary appearance, but they did appear in later games, including Lost World, surprisingly.
You're right.
It was like Lost World, I think it was okay, obviously they're in Forces because the weapons that the
Wispins.
avatar uses, the Wispins? Wispin?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A portmanteau of weapon and wisp.
Yeah, they use the hyper go on energy and basically allow it so the user can use like a version of that power without doing a full combination between them and the wisp.
Yeah.
Which I'm almost curious as to why that is. Like, because after you do the power, like the two split. So like I'm almost like, are they trying to imply that there's a negative connotation between like fusing with the wisp? Like if you do that a lot of times, is there like negative side effects that we need to
Well, what
worry
I'm
about?
thinking is that they kind of articulate that a wisp willingly fuses.
Wait. I just answered my own question because I'm like, oh wait,
yeah.
what if the wisp doesn't trust you? Because then you're not going to fuse. But this way, you can have people who the wisps may not essentially full on trust, but still give them a way to be able to work together, use the power.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like that kind of makes sense too. Like if you think about it, if the wisp is hyper go on and they lend you their hyper go on and they misplace their trust, you can effectively kill them. So I would think that they would not willingly phase into and lend their power either in full capacity or even in partial capacity, because the person could effectively hurt them if they don't trust, if they're not trustworthy, which Eggman has done. And apparently too, that there's an articulation that I saw that like evidently Sonic doesn't use like all of a Wisp's hyper go on, because when the Wisp comes back out of Sonic, they're perfectly fine. As opposed to being ejected forcefully as a Nega Wisp, for example.
Going with Sonic Forces, how it seems basically the Wisps are willing to help the Resistance fight Eggman and his army, despite them being like
makes sense.
Very like one with nature, very peaceful, playful creatures.
Well, I feel like that goes back to like their trust in Sonic and them viewing him as the hero and being like, well, I mean, if Sonic's world is in trouble, like we'll willingly hang here. Actually, that goes to mention too that the Wisps were from planet Wisp, which, by the way, apparently Mother Wisp just like popped out one day. Weird concept.
Yeah.
But like the Wisps, like after the events of Sonic Colors, they're like, actually, you know what? We kind of like hanging around here. So after the fact, they stuck around on Earth.
Yeah.
Which has the Lost Hex above it, which is apparently a part of Earth, as I did a little bit of research on that before the thing started here. So the Wisp just kind of like hung around because they were like, oh, this place is cool. Sonic's cool. His friends are cool. We'll stay here.
Yeah, because some of them stayed. Now, I guess the one thing I have a question about that I couldn't really get like a solid answer to. So for all the planets that Eggman roped together for his amusement park facade, were there different Wisps living on each of the different planets? Because then my question becomes, how did the Wisps get there?
That's a good point.
Because
I was wondering the same thing.
Because if Mother Wisp made the planet of the Wisps and like live there, and she's like, oh, here I'm gonna give birth to many children and we're all gonna live on this planet happily, how did they get off planet to these other planets? Because obviously they don't have technology, and would a Wisp just playing around having fun be like, hey, I'm gonna go off into space, bye, and just flap away to who knows where?
Yeah, like honestly, I don't know. And I was trying to search for this as well. It seems to me that Planet Wisp is where all the Wisps reside, because that's the place that Mother Wisp like popped out of nowhere, and that's where they all live peacefully. These planets were seemingly at least in the same like general area before Eggman like hoisted them all together close to his incredible carnival. And then I think like as a process of like maintaining control, he kind of took the Wisps and like segregated them to different locations, despite the fact that there is a lot of overlap and whatnot.
Okay.
That's like my theory on it. I don't know if it's been like it's confirmed or not. I did surf through some of the other web like wiki pages to see if there was any mention of like that or otherwise, but I couldn't find anything consistent.
Obviously, kind of as we discussed earlier about like Wisps, how they look visually, it's mainly like 3 kind of noodly arm limbs, tendrils, main body, and then some eyes. except for the Nego Wisps who lose the eyes for the mouth. What's getting me confused is, have you seen the Jade Wisp?
Yeah.
Because
that one's exclusive, I think, to the racing games.
it looks like a Nego Wisp, but it still has color.
Fair. Is it considered a Nega-Wisp, though?
Yeah.
It's a creature. It is a breed of wisps that grants the Jade Ghost color power. Much like the Nega-Wisps, they lack eyes and have a wide, sharp, fanged-like mouth in the style of a jack-o'-lantern.
Yeah, so...
But they're composed of Hypergoon.
Yeah, and I'm
just
seeing
like
that
the other ones.
They seem to basically be like every other, like, normal wisp.
Yeah, I would say that I think they just have similarities to Nega-Wisps, but they're not actually Nega-Wisps.
Yeah.
Like, because if you imagine it, like, there is a piece of Nega-Wisp, like, attributes in every Wisp because they can, quote-unquote, degrade to the, like, the purple or violet or whatever the other, like, Nega-Wisp colors were. I don't think any Wisp can, quote-unquote, degrade into a Jade Wisp.
Yeah, because...
So in that way, because it's not a quote-unquote degradation, it's not considered a Nega-Wisp because their makeup is not negative or, energy level critical. That's what I don't know. That's just my theory.
This is interesting here in the trivia notes. So, there is a Jade Wisp that accompanies Sonic and Tails in Sonic Colors Rise of the Wisps. And this specific Jade Wisp has a confirmed gender.
Oh, check that out.
Yeah, as Tails refers to it as her at one point. And apparently some of the other wisps with gender are Yacker, which is the main white wisp from Sonic Colors, the
one who
Mother
yaks.
Wisp, and then the Blue Rebel Wisp.
Now I gotta wonder if within the universe, whether Tails managed to determine the gender of the wisps via his Miles Electric like translation device, or whether and I have more faith in Tails than this,
Mm-hmm.
and I really hope he didn't just look at the Jade Wisp and be like, "That wisp looks like it's wearing a dress. Must be a lady." I wouldn't necessarily put it past Tails, but like
in his defense, I'm pretty sure his canon age is still like 8.
That's true. To be fair.
To be fair, last I checked his age.
I have faith in Tails. I have faith in Tails.
From what we've understood with Mother Wisp, the wisps can produce asexually.
In that case, I think like the gender orientation is more like a social construct more than anything else, especially for the wisps because there is no sex.
Yeah.
But I guess they got gender.
Because I wanted to search, do asexual animals have gender? And the general answer is no. So it's very interesting that this asexual creature, I don't know if it identifies with having this gender or this was something that just Tails did.
I got a better idea. I think it's just the concept of localization. So like English is a gendered language with he, him, her, and they and whatnot. And I think like that's just our way of like interpreting this as English speakers, because there are some language where there are like genderless like pronouns and equivalent. And I think it's just I want to believe that it's actually just a localization thing. And that in Wisp speak, they're not referring to each other as different genders at all.
Yeah.
That's I think that's probably the better way of looking at it.
Okay.
But I don't know. Wisp culture could be very different than human or even hedgehog culture. Did you know that the wisps and black arms have met?
Really?
Oh yeah.
Which actually, that
I found a very interesting lore connection here.
So I feel like before you enlighten us with that, it's interesting because I was making that connection already, because Mother Wisp, being the originator of wisps, who apparently is strong enough to make her own planet. I'm not even going to touch that one. But also just came out of nowhere. And I'm like, this reminds me a lot of Black Doom. Because came out of nowhere and made his own race. So please enlighten us. When did these two forces meet? Did they clash?
So, do you remember when we were discussing, I think, Black Arms during the Shadow the Hedgehog episode or something along the lines?
Yeah, episode 1.
We know about Black Doom. We've heard of Black Death, the kind of a progenitor that comes around after Black Doom. we've kind of touched upon Eclipse the Darkling, which was kind of the Mephiles equivalent for the Black Doom and his race of evil aliens. Evidently, once upon a time, according to the comics, Black Doom came to planet Wisp and sampled some DNA, or whatever the genetic code is for the Wisps, and made their own subgenetic breed of Black Arms Wisps hybrid called Dark Arms. And the Dark Arms are so cute looking!
They are really cute. Like, I saw this.
They're
I'm like,
so cute!
Oh, they're so cute.
From what we see in the comics, evidently, Eclipse the Darkling like has this little like mob of a little cube Dark Arm, the cyan, whatever the cyan equivalent Dark Arm, the red Dark Arm, and I think the magenta like rhythm based Dark Arm. And they've all got little names too.
Oh,
the blue one is Blurk for blue. The red one is Kriegel. Or I guess Crimson, so it must be Crimson, actually.
Yeah, Kriegel. I see that. Laser is Caesar? Caesar.
And then Rygenta for, like, magenta.
Yeah.
So, very cute, actually. And they seem to all be, they seem like really chill creatures. But they work for, specifically, Eclipse the Darkling and Black Death. In the comics. But it's really cool. It's really cool to see that, like, all of the different aspects of, like, different creatures that are introduced in the Sonic universe are being reconnected after the fact. And it seems to all like form together.
I also love this idea about like Black Doom, like going to different planets, like sampling the like, let's say dominant life forms like DNA and combining that with his own to make like more soldiers, different varieties.
Which makes me wonder, and I know we haven't done an episode on like Black Arms or Black Doom like yet, but I wonder what the motivation behind it is. Is it from a place of like self-preservation? Like, can Black Doom not reproduce on his own, like at all? He has to use genetic mutation.
Well,
does he fear that maybe his army has to be large enough to take over the universe? So he's just doing a bunch of samples of genetic things to find like what's the like superior Black Arms subgenetic race or whatever, which is inching into weird territory. But like, I wonder, like, do you have any context on that?
So for him reproducing, to our understanding, like the generic soldiers of like the Black Arms army are like purely like his DNA. So I'm thinking less of like a reproductive standpoint and more for like army versatility, because different species will have different adaptations. So it's like
less likely to be wiped out by a pandemic.
And also like, let's say he sampled a race that like, let's say their planet has acidic rain, so the natural species have adapted to acidic rain, and then he wants to invade a different planet that has acidic rain. They could be like, oh, I have these soldiers from this DNA, I can send them, they won't be impeded by this natural disaster. So I think, like, if nothing else, I see it from like the military tactician standpoint.
Speaking of going back to the Dark Arms for a second, I'm going through their powers and abilities. And just like how regular Wisps can grant their powers to Sonic the Hedgehog, for example, the Dark Arms subgenetic Wisp Black Arms like hybrids can grant their own unique powers to, I don't know if it's specifically to other members of Dark Arms or Black Arms, but they have their own powers, which is really cool.
Yeah.
Like Eclipse the Darkling gets this armor ability from phasing with Blurk.
Using Caesar.
Yeah.
He can turns the user's hands into organic cyan-hued gloves with eyes on the palms.
Which looks so cool, by the way.
Grant them the ability to shoot lasers. Rygenta transforms the user's arms into magenta-hued cannons. And then Kriegel turns their hands into wings.
Things that I'll note about.
Holy criminy Christmas. Okay.
Yeah, dude, this guy looks freaking awesome.
So, yeah, I agree with you. I'm curious if that means that these can only work with Black Arms species, because that also makes me wonder, does that mean they would be able to fuse with Shadow? Because he's Black Arms.
Dude!
And I mean, he already has some crazy powers like that by himself,
Dude, you're right. Holy.
as we've seen in Sonic X Shadow Generations.
Have we ever seen the Wisps fuse with Shadow?
I don't think we have.
You know what? Another thing that we really haven't touched upon up until this point is that in the realm of Wisp color powers, the color powers themselves do not overlap. You can't have orange and blue at the same time. Can't have purple and cyan at the same time. It just doesn't work that way. But because Shadow is part, I guess, Mobian in a way. Well, not Mobian. Yeah, Mobian, because he's got, what, Robotnik's DNA, right?
Yeah.
So Gerald's DNA. So he's part Mobian, and he's part Black Arms. Could he potentially cross the color beams together?
Maybe.
A little bit of Dark Arms, a little bit of Wisp? For the ultimate power? For the ultimate life form?
Bring the question, like, would you be able to use a Dark Arm and a Wisp at the same time?
But now consider this too, right? So Shadow in particular has the power to basically utilize the Chaos Emeralds at will. But if he's also got like Black Arms DNA, which we've seen in Eclipse the Darkling being able to utilize the Wisps, could he potentially be the one to fuse the Chaos Emerald powers and the Hyper Go-On powers together?
Maybe.
Or do they still just cancel each other out and it just doesn't work that way? Like maybe he can't chaos control while he's under like color power.
I think in one of the games, if you were like you could be supersonic and get like wisps, but it was like if you tried to use that power, you would have to go back to like regular Sonic and then you would use your wisp power.
Yeah. And I also want to point out that I was asking whether or not we've ever seen Shadow use a Wisp power.
Yes.
And so long as Shadow is a playable character in Team Sonic Racing, the answer is yes.
Yes. Because I forgot Team Dark is in that game.
Yeah. And so is naturally the Jade Wisp. So he's definitely able to use it. But I guess the Dark Arms only exist in the comics, and from what I understand, we've only seen Eclipse the Darkling use them. Which, by the way, Eclipse the Darkling, I know nothing about this character.
Same.
I'm only regurgitating what I found on the wiki.
We have glanced at this character. This is the second time, actually.
That's fair.
Going back to the DNA Mobius thing, actually, they don't need Mobian DNA at all because Omega, he's done Wisp powers. And he's not organic at all.
Ooh, I just had a thought.
Okay.
If the Wisp powers are incompatible with Chaos Emerald power, and Chaos Emerald power is supposed to be like the living energy of, thinking things, Hyper Go-On is clearly capable of powering inorganic things, or modifying inorganic things like weapons, like Omega, but also organic beings as well. Like Shadow, like Sonic. Maybe they are like almost more powerful than Chaos Emeralds. Because it took a lot of technological effort for Eggman to get Chaos Emeralds to power pretty much anything.
Yeah.
So maybe that's the drawback of a Chaos Emerald power, is Chaos Emerald powers have to have some sort of like almost biological component to it.
Or maybe
Almost.
Maybe you could have some synthetic rhythm, I guess, or wavelength to make that energy compatible.
Yeah. That's so interesting. Especially as we continue thinking about like the variety of different powers that exist in the Sonic the Hedgehog universe, whether it's the power of the stars or a Hyper Go-On or a Chaos Emerald energy or Master Emerald counter energy. There's a lot to think about here. But that's why we're here.
Exactly. We are here to talk about all things Sonic, including the crazy amounts of powerful energy that exists in this love fun universe and trying to see how they all interact with each other.
Greater than infinite, perhaps? Infinite upon infinite plus 2000.
I feel like how we've talked about like the different energies in this universe, it's almost like an apples and oranges thing, because a lot of them don't seem to interact with each other. Okay, except we know like the power of the stars is like, to our understanding, It's more powerful than Chaos Emerald, like far more powerful than Chaos Emeralds could be.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have Wisp Energy, or Hyper Go On, excuse me, which is about, would it be safe to say it's on like that same like spectrum of power as a Chaos Emerald? Would that be fair, or should I...
In the same spectrum? Like, I'd say the same magnitude of power, I'd say. But
Yeah.
I think completely different spectrums.
Yeah, because I feel like comparing like the Hyper Go On to Chaos Emerald, it's literally comparing like apples and pears. Like they're both
Yeah.
fruit, but they're different types of fruit.
And that also makes me think too, like even as the various different gems serve as plot devices for the variety of Sonic the Hedgehog games and stories and whatnot, it actually kind of makes sense for the Chaos Emeralds to be a weaker set of power because of how prevalent they are in most of the franchise. So it'd be wild if you had infinite powered items in every single game, because I'd be like, wow, they're just freaking overpowered. Instead, let's pull on something that's more powerful for this game and more powerful for this one. But this one's not compatible with this one. Otherwise, there'd be too much infinite and things wouldn't work. Going back to the power of the Hyper Go On and what the Hyper Go On can be used for, we haven't really talked too much about the Wispins.
Correct.
Which are most prevalent in Sonic Forces. And I feel like there's not too much to go on here aside from just the fact that, you can't combine the powers together, which we've already established. They all have slightly different manifestations of the power depending on what color you're using. You can channel that energy into a weapon, and it's not full on like phasing into a body, which the Wisp would have to trust the user for it. In this case, they don't have to trust the user. It's a piece of mechanic. Which is inorganic, which goes back to the point that we were talking about Omega and his ability to use Hyper Go On based energy. And there's one like weapon in particular, and I think there's a variable Wispin that can apparently use any of the colors.
Yes. I did,
but not at the same time.
Yeah, because beyond that, each Wispin is like designed to work with a specific Wisp color.
Yeah. And what's interesting? There is, I think, only one case where we see every single color being used either simultaneously or combined together.
Oh, that's the color burst thing, right?
Yeah, you're right. Unlimited colors.
Yep.
Final Color Blaster. And it's interesting because we don't see that anywhere else aside from Sonic Colors in the one of the Olympic Games, Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games. And that's it. And they're all being used at the same time. Now, my theory is that they're not actually being used like they're not merging together. I think of it almost like maybe like if you imagine Sonic's body as being able to like have different parts of it separately, but at the same time utilizing different powers. Like they're all happening simultaneously, but they're not merging.
Yeah, because I feel like if they tried to merge, like it would be too much energy, and literally like A, his body would not be able to handle it, and also B, it would become uncontrollable, which we've seen what happens when this energy is uncontrolled, because in Sonic Colors it gets out of control in one of Eggman's machines because it's damaged, and it creates a black hole,
which is it's when it's when a bunch of things collapse.
Yeah, and not only is this power strong enough to make a black hole, but it's also strong enough to close the black hole and neutralize it.
And if you think about it, like I don't exactly remember what the heck the power of the stars were, but when I think of the power of the stars, power of the universe, Hyper Go On can create black holes. It can create planets. It can teleport entire planets. It can destroy black holes. And to me, that seems like a celestial level of power that rivals even something that is considered to be the power of the stars.
Well, I think that the power of the stars is still higher than that, because I believe it's the power of the stars that's keeping the different dimensions in place.
Fair.
Yeah, what's the
then
difference between like, oh yeah, you can like make some stars, close them, make some black holes. I can literally throw dimensions at you. I can throw entire universes. It's like that scene in Gurren Lagann.
And that brings to mind that there is this, I found it in one of the articles and I don't remember what it's called, but like the main universe that we exist in, like the Sonic the Hedgehog universe, as opposed to like other universes, is called like, I think the Prime Zone or like the main zone, Prime Zone. And I'm not talking about the pre-Super Genesis wave, but like, it seems to me like the power of the stars is a power that can connect the Prime Zone to other worlds. But I might be getting myself a little mixed up because it's the Prime Zone is either, oh wait, never mind, hold up. For the version of this location exists primarily or exclusively within the post-Super Genesis wave continuity. Yes, that makes sense. That makes sense. I don't recall whether the power of the star, and you can remind me on this, the power of the star separates like Blaze's universe from Sonic's universe, right?
Yes.
But I don't know if the Prime Zone encompasses both of those universes or whether it's only one or the other, because the thing on the Prime Zone wiki page says that the Prime Zone distinguishes the Sonic the Hedgehog universe from like the Mega Man universe, which is a completely different set of IP.
Yeah.
So the question now is, there is apparently a level of energy that can go across intellectual property franchises. There's also a level of power seemingly below that can connect different distinct in IP universes together, Blaze's world and Sonic's world.
Yeah.
Then we have a power that exists within just one of the worlds, but that can do things at a level that is unfathomable for, like, you know, individual creatures, which seems to be Hypergon energy. And then Chaos Emerald energy seems to be a localized version of that on a smaller degree, which can like work on creatures of higher level thought, biology, but also be powerful enough to gravitate worlds together. Like the ancients making their way towards the Master Emerald because the Chaos Emeralds and the Master Emeralds were, you know, counterparts to each other. So there does very clearly seem to be like this hierarchy of power sources and energies. And I feel like if we really thought about it, we could stack rank them in terms of how powerful they actually are. It seems like there's a hierarchy of all of these powers. And I feel like we could stack rank them if we tried.
Yeah.
Just a thought. Anyway, please continue.
Because I want to know, like, how much power does the Mother Wisp have?
And how does that power work, too?
Exactly. Like, obviously, it is something on a celestial scale, considering she made a planet. And apparently, it seems almost a vibe of, oh yeah, no biggie, I just did that.
Yeah. And you know, all of the wisps, and not even all of the wisps, but like a fraction of the wisps that Sonic saved in Sonic Colors, when you combine their powers together, had the ability to destroy the black hole and undo it. So to me, closing a black hole is even more powerful than creating a planet.
Yeah.
Which means Mother Wisp either can multiply her power by producing offspring, or she's siphoning off a small piece of her power to every single one of her little wispy babies.
Yeah.
In which case, her power is even greater than just a singular planet. And you could say that even like maybe the amount of power it takes to create a planet is actually less than the power to create a whole new set of genetic code incompatible within itself. One color versus another being like more power than a planet, because like genetic code is confusing if there was even genetics to speak of. But I guess E equals MC squared, so could be matter.
The wisps are essentially living energy.
Mother Wisp is God.
Yeah, I'm okay with that, actually.
Yeah. God is a woman.
She is a giant jellyfish.
She's a giant jellyfish. Not a cephalopod, by the way.
Yep, not a cephalopod.
Not a cephalopod. Not one of these things. No. Oh, my God. That thing's freaking terrifying. I just looked at that. It's like an Eldritch abomination. Yeah, Mother Wisp is more like, can you see this over here?
Yes, I can see where you're circling.
This is like Mother Wisp.
Yeah.
That's Mother. And then she got little plumb bobs on top.
Yeah, she do.
That's Mother Wisp.
And she is...
Now, consider this, Lycos. This little god created this.
It literally looks like scribbles, dude.
But like, just because your puny little human brain can't fathom the power of the little scribbly things that I've drawn on my board here, which is a representation of the recreative powers of Mother Wisp and her little baby wispy creatures, doesn't mean that it's wrong.
Are we saying that the Mother Wisp is a Eldritch abomination from beyond the stars? So are we saying that Mother Wisp is Cthulhu confirmed? Or Flying Spaghetti Monster confirmed?
Hey, dog, I'm not here to judge, but it seems like that might be the case.
Yeah, no. Deep sea theme, check. Tentacles, check.
Yeah.
Beyond the stars, check.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Have we seen? Oh my god. Have we seen the wisps in people's dreams yet?
Oh my god.
Because I don't know enough about Sonic Dream Team, but if there's wisps in Sonic Dream Team, we're getting even closer to Eldritch status.
Sonic, I'm getting scared.
Sonic, I'm scared.
Next time we see Tails, like he's drawing like the stars with the eyes in them, like they're all over his walls and stuff, and he has like the conspiracy theory board.
Yeah,
it's all connected, Sonic. It's all connected.
Oh my gosh!
Don't cross
Lycos.
with the being of three eyes. What? What do we got?
In Mario and Sonic at the Sochi 2014 Olympic Winter Games, the Wisps make an appearance during the Dream event, Sonic's Figure Skating Spectacular.
Oh,
I don't know whether this Dream event is a dream-like in your head, because I've never actually played the Olympic Winter Games game.
I played some of the older ones, and yeah, I
need to see what this means.
I can't even tell if it's a dream or not, but...
Dream events. What is a dream event? I need to know what a dream event is. I'm checking this now.
If they are actually...
This is very important.
If they are actually sleeping...
They're special themed Olympic events that happens and its sequels. Each one contains after a certain individual of the Mario series. Rather than the Olympic Stadium, it uses the level's properties to make the event dream-like.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
They're not actual dreams.
Not actual dreams. Just dream-like. Whew, dodged a bullet there for a second.
Oh, man.
Dude, we've got it. We've got our episode name. The Eldritch Abomination. Wisps are Eldritch Abominations? Question mark?
Yep.
Almost. You almost had us there.
Oh, man.
Oh, my God.
Sonic, you better not dream of wisps tonight.
Holy wow. Holy wispy.
Oh, man.
Okay, that being said, is there anything that we haven't touched upon for the wisps?
I don't think so.
I think we covered a solid amount of ground.
Yeah.
Aside from every single ability of the wisps.
Yeah, we didn't really talk about their powers. And you know,
it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
I don't think we need to.
Yeah, I don't. But I do just have one question that I don't think will ever be answered, and I'm okay with this. What does it feel like to have your body transformed into something like this? So like I don't know why my big example is cube, because the cube state seems like, you know, like a pretty solid surface, like let's say like some form of steel.
Yeah.
Like how does it feel like your body like transforming into this? Like what happens to your skeletal structure?
I think that's a really good point, though, because actually I was watching the Sonic and Shadow interview that happened the other day, where they were answering questions from the audience, and somebody asked Shadow what it felt like to use those Black Arms powers for the first time, or even the Chaos Control power for the first time. And he was just like, it felt like a lot of it. I don't have his quote exactly, but I want to say it was just like, it was an immense amount of... Actually, I think it was questioned to Shadow and Sonic about superpowers.
Okay.
Like the super forms.
Yeah.
And they're basically like, it's just a lot of power. It happens. And then you like kind of get used to it.
Huh.
Basically. So I imagine, like, you know, Sonic's been around the block with superpowers up the wazoo. So I'm sure he's probably just like, it's just another one.
Another Tuesday.
Shadow's not a stranger to his body being morphed in ways that seemingly are impossible for a being with skeletal structure. Next time on the LoreX podcast, I have no idea where we're going.
Yeah.
If you have a suggestion of where to go deep into the Sonic lore next,
let us know.
Let us know.
Yeah, let us know it either in the comments or the comments.
Absolutely. Yeah, the comments. I think there's comments on the spoofy and on the apply and on the UT.
Oh, the apply, the UT, and the spoofy. Ah, my favorite
Yeah.
places to go for
LoreX
all my
podcast coming to
listening
Apple at
needs.
some point. Absolutely. In any case, thank you everybody for listening to the LoreX podcast. My name is Cameron with an X, your local video game mixologist and live streamer. You can find me on most socials at Cameron with an X.
And I am the LycosLore. You can mainly find me on YouTube, where I am doing some crazy game experiments.
Like Sonic the Hedgehog inside of Fallout.
Yes, that was
fun.
That one, and also showing Sonic 06 with two friends who have never played Sonic games. It's great.
Until then, y'all.
Yep.
Peace.
See ya. Do we want to do like that stupid that X arm thing that we did that one time?
No, I don't want to do the X arm thing anymore. Like, cut it. Cut it right there.